Hey everyone, welcome to this new format I'm trying today, a live lesson. I'm really glad you could join me, and I'm really excited about this tune, Embraceable You by Gershwin. And based on the feedback I got from the video, my last video, How to Embellish a Jazz Ballad, it seemed like viewers wanted more of the same, like, can we work through those techniques on a different tune? So that's what I'm going to do today. The same kind of techniques that I used over A Prelude to a Kiss, I'm going to use on today's stream. But I'm going to use Embraceable You. So I'm going to switch camera views now so that you can see not only the overhead camera, but the sheet music. So hopefully that's big enough to view. Let's see if that worked. Yeah. Okay. So let me know if the audio and the is coming through okay and that you can see the sheet music. And I'll get started. So I've got Embraceable You in the key of E flat in this lead sheet. I think the original was G major. If you check the original sheet music, the original key was G major. And I know that Bud Powell and Barry Harris played it in F major. And of course, singers will take on a lot of different keys according to their ranges. But I prefer E flat major. Many jazz players play it in E flat. So that's what I'm going to stick with today. But of course, it doesn't mean that you have to. Also, on this lead sheet, I've got the melody written up an octave just so it's a little bit easier to see. And I tend to play it, solo piano, I move all over, and that's okay, too. For those of you who don't play with lead sheets a lot, there's a lot of flexibility. You can play the melody on your instrument wherever sounds best to you. So that just a little explanation about that before we get started. So here goes. Let's start. So I love Embraceable You. There's a lot of possibilities here for solo piano embellishments. And the first thing I'm going to do, and it's so easy, one of the techniques that I did in my previous video was the octave bell tones. So I'm adding those bell tones in octaves anywhere that sounds good. It can be high, low. I tend to like it kind of high just because it's a contrast to where I'm playing the chords and the melody. And I'm picking notes that are chord tones. So on the G half diminished, I can play the third, can play the seventh, and then the C7 flat 9, can play the flat 9, or sharp 11, and then on the F minor. So you get the idea. It doesn't have to be set in stone. Can I play non-chord tones? Yes. So yeah, I can, but it's probably going to sound a little more dissonant. So you have to decide with your playing, what are you going for? Are you going for more of a, sweet inside kind of sound, or are you going for some more dissonance? And that's something that you get to decide, being the arranger. I mean, you're spontaneously arranging. So that's the bell tones, and I love it. It's super easy. Now, another thing that you can do is play the melody in double octaves. Even triple octaves, right? I'm playing one note with my left hand, and my right hand's playing in octaves. So. Okay. Another thing that you can try is playing the melody with your left hand. I heard a recording of Embraceable You done by Marcus Roberts, and he plays it in E flat too, and he plays almost the whole head in the whole melody with his left hand. And I think it's really effective, and I think it's something as jazz pianists we don't do enough of, is utilize our left hand playing melodies. So, what does that sound like? Let's try it. So I can, play it like that, and I can add in my right hand when it feels right, or just play the whole thing with my left hand. Okay, so I'm going to shut off my chat here because it's distracting. I'm only going to look at my laptop for questions. I thought it would be helpful, but it's not. So feel free to ask questions along the way. If it's related to solo piano playing and Embraceable You and the like, if it's off topic, it might be better for another time. Okay, so playing the melody with the left hand is a great way to go. Also, you can try grace notes. And I know that seems obvious to those of you who have been playing jazz for a while, but if you haven't, you might not have considered. Grace notes are how on the piano we bend a note, just like a singer would bend a note, or a guitarist would bend a note, or even a horn player. So we can't bend the note because it's a percussion instrument, but we can slide into a note. So... So we can embellish by doing some grace notes. So just like any technique, you don't want to overdo it, but just as an example, I did it there 3 or 4 times so you'd get the idea of how that can sound. Grace notes, super effective when you're embellishing a melody or improvising. Hey, Pierre, welcome. Okay, so let's move on from grace notes, and I will play some passing notes, okay? So I'm going to just start at the beginning, and here it goes with some passing notes. Okay, so don't you just love that those chord changes, the B flat, G flat 7, F minor 7, E7 flat 5. And that tritone sub is in the original that Gershwin wrote. So he knew about tritone subs, and there you go. That's the original. And sometimes the original's the best. You'll find that, especially if you check out the original sheet music, sometimes what the composer intended sounds the best, and it's the best choice. But over time, jazz musicians add and embellish and have alternate changes. So what do you think? Did it sound good with the passing notes? So I tried to not only pass in between melody notes in the melody, but also when I'm filling, I'm adding as well, adding passing notes. Thank you. Good to know that the video and the audio is coming through well. I'm not the best at all the tech stuff, but being a musician, you have to learn quite a bit about audio and video, even if you don't really want to. I just want to play the piano, but I've got to learn about equipment and streaming and all of that. So passing notes, grace notes, wonderful ways to embellish. So one thing, especially in a jazz context that you don't want to forget about is playing the blues. So the blues are, foundational to what we do when we're playing jazz. And so we always want that flavor to be in our music. And whether we're playing a ballad, a standard, an actual 12-bar blues, or a bebop tune, we can infuse our playing with blues sounds. And that's what kind of sets the professionals, the masters, apart. Because, it's going to sound okay if I don't play the blues, but it's going to have a special flavor and nod to tradition, but a soulfulness that comes from adding the blues in as well. So I'm going to try using a bit more of a bluesy sound on my playing of the first half right now. So So just a little bit. I don't want to, do it too much and just kind of run all over the melody, but subtly bring in the blues. And when we're in the key of E flat major, we want to think E flat blues. Okay, so that's the E flat blues scale, and you can incorporate that throughout, even when you're not on necessarily an E flat chord or a 2-5-1. You can sprinkle a little bit of the blues in there. You can also try some ideas that are more like this. Again, that's using a little bit of blues sound, but with the grace note. Grace note up into the fifth, like that. That can be really effective when you're embellishing a tune like this. And just, again, don't overdo it, or else it can sound like you're trying too hard. So I'm not going to be able to have the pedals shown, and I'm not going to adjust the camera right now because I don't want to mess it up, Pierre. But I can maybe do that another time. What I recommend is that you watch on a larger screen. Maybe later check back on a larger screen, either on a laptop or a desktop. If you're watching on your phone, it's not going to be, or even a small tablet, it might not be enough. So yeah, I don't want to mess with it right now, but hopefully you can still see and hear. And again, it's not my exact idea that you necessarily want to copy, but you want to get the concept down. And you're asking, why is it more blues than jazz? Well, jazz is kind of a really broad term for a lot of different styles. It could mean swing, it could mean improv, music coming from the blues. The blues, as I speak of it, like right now, I'm just talking about the sound of the blues, the influence of the blues when I bring it into the Great American Songbook. So hopefully that will make it a little bit clearer. All right. So another thing that I talked about on my last video was using arpeggios to embellish. Now, this is going to work, of course, the best in a solo context because if you're playing with bass and drums and everyone's keeping a solid time feel and rhythm, you're not going to be, all over the place with arpeggios. But for solo playing, it works very nicely. So let me try it here. And I'm improvising right now, too. So no, there's no handout today. There's no PDF to download. It's just me improvising. And that's what I want to come across, that you're creating your own ideas. I'm just giving you some techniques to spur you on. So if I were to do some arpeggios, I could just take that E flat 6-9 chord. For that G7 flat 9, I'm just kind of doing a root and seventh in my left hand. And then the third, the flat 13, and the root again on top. Very simple, but sounds great, and it's really effective for setting up the C minor. I'm in measure 8 right now. Okay, so arpeggios, they work really nicely when you come to the end of a phrase or when you're holding a long note. Same thing when I get to the last, on your sheet there, on the last 2 measures of the first half. So, and that E7 flat 5 is, or I could just do it E9. So root and 7th in the left hand, 3rd, 7th, 9th. And so arpeggios, playing them like this. Or just can play them solid, which is just playing chords. I mean, arpeggios are just broken chords, so I can do it broken. But I can also play them solid. And either way, it's going to sound good. You just have to kind of find those places in the music, in the particular tune you're working on, that it's going to sound good with the phrasing. So, yes, always an effective solo piano technique, and you hear it all the time in the playing of all the greats. I'm going to talk a little bit. This is something I didn't actually bring up in the last video, but I will today, and that's diads. So what are diads? You've heard of triads, right? A 3-note chord, so just a plain E-flat chord. Three-note triad, tri being 3. So a diad's just going to be a 2-note chord. And when you're filling and embellishing a ballad, those diads can be really nice too. Again, I can pick any 2 notes. I can pick, a second like this. Just B flat and C. D flat and E flat. Again, I can play them solid or I can play them broken. And again, with picking those 2 notes, do you want them to sound inside the key or outside the key? So you're going to want to pick notes that fit with the chord or the scale that you're playing over if you want more of a harmonious sound and not a dissonant sound. So I can do a 4th. And you can use these in your improv too, so. What do you think? Do you like the sound of the dyad? Just another way to fill and give you some more tools in your toolbox for embellishing in between the melody or just any time on a ballad. You're welcome. I've got a few more, so stick around. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. So the next thing I want to talk about is filling and embellishing with scales. Now, you can make use of all those scales you've been practicing when you practice your chromatic scale, your major scales, minor scales. If you're a jazz player and you're practicing your diminished scales and things like that, you want to be able to use those when you're playing solo and filling. So just as an idea for chromatic scale. So I'm just trying to find little spots where I can play the chromatic scale. Again, I'm trying really hard now, and you can tell I'm like doing it as an exercise, but I wouldn't do it that much when I'm actually playing a gig or when I'm, performing. But as a practice tool, just practicing, you want to try it all over the place. And there's no right or wrong way. You can just play the chromatic scale up into a note, or if there's an interval of a third, you could just fill it with a chromatic scale. Thank you, Trevor. Trevor says it all sounds very good. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm really trying to focus on things that can sound good right away without, a lot of unnecessary labor. So, and Pam says Diad would be more my speed. The Diad sounds good to me, and it's simple. I like to play ballads and keep them simple and elegant. It's not my style to play a lot of notes and busy. So you just have to find a way to use these techniques find the techniques that you want to use out of the ones I'm giving you here and others that feel natural to your style. Not every technique is going to feel natural to the style of every pianist. It's just not going to be the case. You find ones that work for you and that you feel like, this is my authentic expression on the piano. Okay, so that's the chromatic scale. And another one that really sounds great, and I think I mentioned it before in the last video, but that's the either the diminished whole tone, which is a part diminished scale, and the top half is a whole tone scale. I'll demonstrate it. There's another name for it too, but so on the G minor 7 flat 5, the G half diminished in measure 4. Okay, then I go to the C7 flat 9. So the diminished whole tone scale would be this. Okay, that part's the diminished, and then whole tone. And I can keep going. Again, I can play it in any range. But if you're kind of looking at that scale, you're like, oh, that's just if I start on the D flat, it's the D flat melodic minor, or C sharp melodic minor, ascending. Okay, so I can, let's see. So I can play it ascending, but I can also play it down as well. You can use that on just about every dominant chord. It just depends on where, again, it depends on the tune. It depends on the melody note. Sometimes if you've let go of the melody note, you can get away with playing a scale that doesn't have the melody note in it, and it'll still work on the tune. So let me know what you think about that scale. I just use the fingering 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. Again, if you're thinking about it as D flat melodic minor, or C sharp melodic minor. You can think about it like that, starting on the D flat. It doesn't really matter what note you start on when you play these scales as a fill or as part of your improv. Again, that's up to you. You'll hear Thelonious Monk. He does a lot of times he'll do the whole tone scale. And a good way to play the whole tone scale is you just have these fingers, 2, 3, and 4 on your each hand. at least for the C whole tone scale. So that works really well. It's easier than just playing it with one hand. When you hear players like Oscar Peterson and Art Tatum and many others who are doing fast arpeggios or fast scales, they're generally doing them with two hands. Not always, but there's ways that you can do different scales where you're, or play different ideas where you're punching in with the left hand and the right hand, and it makes it a lot easier to play than if you just try to do it with one hand. So that could be a YouTube video in and of itself, just that topic of scales and how to finger them. And by the way, if you aren't practicing your scales in the major keys and all the minor keys, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you really want to get the geography of the piano, the geography of the instrument down, and all of those patterns that keyboard players have been using for hundreds of years. You want to know what the standard fingerings are, because when it comes to applying, learning a new tune, learning a new classical piece, whatever it is, you're going to make better fingering choices, and you're going to have an easier time if you're already practicing your scales, arpeggios. Scales and arpeggios, scales in major and minor. So just a tip there for anyone who is not and is struggling, you need to practice your major and minor scales. So I've taught a lot of people over the years, and those who kind of come to jazz piano later and don't have a good foundation in their background will really struggle with fingering. And hey, we all have our struggles, but one way to kind of remedy that is to learn your major and minor scales. So there's my scale rant for the day. All right, let's see here. Move on to scale patterns, okay? Scale patterns are just, it's kind of a loose term for whatever you want them to be. Say on the F sharp diminished. I'm just making up different patterns to play over the scale. And, it could be anything. It could be. So those can sound good when you use them as fills in your playing too. Okay, so I can add those, and it just kind of gives the ear something melodic to listen to instead of just playing a scale. It's an idea on a scale that kind of draws you in, and you can take an idea from the melody, or you could just make up something that just sounds good to you. So scale patterns are great as well. Again, there are books, complete books on patterns for jazz out there, and they're full of all kinds of things that you can do on different chords. I could just find a pattern even on the E flat 6 on the 1 chord. So I'm thinking kind of the major scale, and maybe I do something like the 2nd and 3rd, 5th and 6th note of the scale. Or I can start maybe on this, do 6, 7, 6, 7, 2, 3. Okay, so it gives you a lot of great ideas for improv when you start doing those scale patterns. And again, I've tried to demonstrate quite a few in just 4 measures there. So I did use a lot. Again, don't overdo it, but try out some of those scale patterns where you're finding notes in the scale and you're just really making mini melodies out of it to improvise over. Okay, that makes a nice segue into outlining chords with enclosures. All I mean by enclosure, again, that's a whole topic, but to make it a brief, bite-sized explanation, an enclosure is when we have a chord tone that's being surrounded by other notes, but eventually you're going to land on the chord tone. So if we take E flat major and I land on the root like this, and then I can do it on the 3rd and then on the 5th. So all I'm doing is I'm enclosing that chord tone. Those work really nicely as well. So. Okay, so I'm just finding ways to enclose a chord tone. You could also make it a little fancier. Okay, so using enclosures can give you some more ideas on not only improvising over the tune, but also embellishing the melody. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that's sounding good. Okay, good. One key, I think, is when you've got some of these techniques down, is just to mix them all up. In the end, you want to mix them up, so there's variety in your improv or in your embellishments of a tune. Okay, let's see. So when you're deciding on where to play a fill, or whether it's a fill that's more melodic or whether it's a fill that's chordal in nature, I think it depends on the tune. So for Embraceable You, we have these long notes that happen on the end of the phrase. So if we think about it in 4-bar phrases, so there's a lot of time, especially if you're playing a ballad at a slow to medium tempo, there's a lot of time. What are you going to do? It's a good place to fill when you're on a long note, or when you've come to a spot that is less active in the melody. Okay, so at the end of the phrase, it feels natural to me to take some time, and I'm still keeping time. I'm not playing more of a start-stop ballad or a rubato, type ballad. I'm still playing time, but I'm stretching a little bit and improvising on those spots in the melody where the long notes are at the end of the phrase, and you can do the same too. Okay? So keep that in mind when you're at the end of a phrase, and you're gonna have those options to do an arpeggio, to play a fill. I'm gonna demonstrate now the same concept at the end of the phrase, but I'm gonna play more chordal in nature rather than single line. So I'm still playing a melody because there's a top note in the chord, but it's really the chord that is what I'm using to fill in those spots at the end of the phrase. So let me know if you like that. If there's the melodic fills, and then there's the more chordal fills. I think the chords can give you, a little more oomph, a little more power when needed. Especially if you're playing with bass and drums and you're in a situation where there's just more instruments. So that's the chord fills. And one thing I did mention in the last video was the tritone subs. Okay, so the tritone sub is you're going to find that dominant chord here and there where you want to do a tritone sub. And it just means that they share the same third and seventh. So let me find a spot where I want to do that. You know what? I think I'll go to the second half of the tune since I've been playing the first half. Hang on. Okay, so let's look at the second half of the tune now, just for some variety. So I'm going to find a spot. I think I'm going to go with let's see, measure. Okay, so let me play, and when it in that eighth measure there, when it goes from B flat minor 7 to E flat 7. So we know E flat 7 has G and D flat in it. Okay. Dominant chord. So when I use the tritone away from E flat, I get an A. And they share the same third and the seventh. So I can substitute that A7 in place of the E flat 7. So that's going to sound like this. Okay, so again, it's written like this. So I'm going to substitute the A7 again for the E flat 7. And it just gives another color and another choice for you when you're playing. And again, in a solo context, if you're playing with a bass player and you do a tritone sub like that, they'll probably go with you. In fact, they may play an A in the bass there as well. So it all works together. But give that tritone sub a try and see, what you can come up with. I think you'll really enjoy the different color that it gives when you're playing a progression. Oh, good. Let's talk about a couple more things. You definitely want to use the melody to build your solo, and use the melody as a guide when you're playing a ballad. The tune itself is going to guide you through as an improviser. If you play something that has nothing to do with Embraceable You when you're soloing, it's going to sound a little off or disjointed. So you want to think about the atmosphere, the spacing, and everything in a tune when you're thinking about improvising on it. If you want to go ahead and do something that's completely unrelated, again, that's up to you and your style. But to me, I want to get some clues from the tune itself. So especially if you're a beginner improviser, you can think, okay, so at the beginning, it's very simple. There's lots of space. So I can take that idea and I can make my own melody. Sorry, guys. I went back to the first half instead of soloing on the second half. I just realized that you've got the second half in front of you. So let me do the second half now. So do you see how I built my solo using getting my cues from the melody? I didn't just kind of come out of nowhere with something crazy. This melody is so beautiful, and it set the mood in a certain way. And then I tried to keep that going in my solo. So hopefully that, just seeing those examples will help a little bit. Another thing that will really help you is knowing the lyric. So when you know the lyrics, it helps you interpret the tune. You may discover that you like to sing or that you can sing, and you might be able to use that on a gig, right? But the main thing is it's going to give you a clue on how to interpret the tune. Are the lyrics sad? Are they hopeful? Are they witty? Are they melancholy? So you want to take that in when you're thinking about how you're going to play it. And sometimes, even though we're playing it as instrumentalists and not singers, we want to think about that when we're interpreting. I hope that makes sense. So right now, I'm going to keep that last half of the tune up on the screen, and I'm going to just comp through the last half of the tune. So this is how I might play behind a singer, or this is how I might play behind a horn player. I just thought it would be kind of interesting if you especially are new to comping on a ballad, that I'm not going to solo this time. I'm not going to play the melody. I'm just going to play that last half of the tune, and just play chords like I'm supporting a vocalist or a horn player. So that's what it's going to sound like when I'm not playing a melody. Of course, I can fill here and there, but you got to be careful because you want when you're comping, you want the soloist to be the main attraction, and we're just supporting it with them with our chords. So I hope you enjoyed that as well. Just that's another thing when you're practicing a tune. Practice comping on it, making sure you know all the chords and know what all the chord symbols mean. Very important. To me, less is more. When we're talking about a ballad, to me, less is more in terms of soloing, in terms of fills, and in terms of comping. There's plenty of time to kind of play your blues licks, to play your longer lines. And to me, that's on other tunes. When I play a ballad, I want to be reflective and contemplative and enjoy the slow tempo. So to me, again, be diligent with practice, but be careful that you don't overdo it. You want your playing to support others, and you want to stay in the mood of the tune. I hope that helps, especially like I've been playing with groups and with singers for many years, so this comes with experience. I've had a lot of singers tell me that you're really easy to sing with, and I take that as a great compliment because I know my role. My role when I'm comping is a supportive role, and we want to be a team. It's all about the music, isn't it? It's not about our skills and our playing. We want to play music. We don't want to just play technique. So I would encourage you, to think, especially in a ballad, less is more. And again, that's up to you in your playing. You can decide how busy or how sparse do I want to make my playing in a particular tune. All right, so I'm almost done. I think that just to have a couple more words of wisdom, if you will. I encourage everyone out there, and I know you all do this already, but when you're learning a tune, make sure you listen to recordings. It doesn't matter if it's a singer. It does help if it's a singer because you'll learn the words. It doesn't matter if it's Bing Crosby or Tony Bennett or somebody like that who will sing the melody very clearly. In fact, that's good. But you can also listen to jazz singers like Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan, who are going to take more expression, more freedom with the melody and do their own thing and scat. Listen to instrumentalists, the best, and check them out and see what they're doing on a particular tune. And all of that's going to guide you and help you make the best decisions on the tune you're working on. So listen to recordings. Thank you so much, Trevor. I'm glad you've learned a lot, and yeah, it's all practical and playable. Everything that I'm talking about today, it's not anything obscure. And I'm glad, Trevor, that you're accompanying yourself singing as well. I do the same, and perhaps sometime I'll do a video on accompanying singers or accompanying yourself, just in another tune to give some more ideas. So great to hear that. So, in summary, do your own homework. I recommend checking out original sheet music to learn melodies. It doesn't, the original Gershwin sheet music to Embraceable You will be helpful. I do like, do I have it here? Yeah. I know I've mentioned this on one other video, Dick Hyman's professional chord changes and substitutions for 100 tunes every musician should know. So I'm just going to hold this up. Actually, can you see it right here? Anyway, I'll hold it up again. And if I think about it, I'll link it below. Great book. It does have the original chord changes to Embraceable You in it. And he always has the best commentary about chord substitutions and stuff like that. So I highly recommend his book. But again, check the original sheet music. Don't rely on lead sheets that you find online. Yes, they can be helpful, but do your own research, do your own homework on a tune, and make sure that you've checked out some recordings so you can find out what the masters are playing on these tunes. And Bud Powell does this. Oh, Oscar Peterson plays this chord here. I like that. I'm gonna do that too. All those little things that make a difference and will add up to a lot when it comes to your own playing. So I think I'm going to sign off now. If you have a question and you're watching this later, not the live stream, and you're watching later, please leave a question in the comments underneath the video, and I will be sure to answer it later. But if this has been helpful and you want to see more live lessons, let me know, and I have a lot of ideas for tunes. So let me know if you'd like to contribute to this live stream. I hope to have guests in the future on my streams, or if you found this helpful and want to give a little tip, there's some info in the description and in just a minute on the end screen. So thank you guys. I'm glad you found this helpful, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.